Rani Viroja, welcome to the Manufacturing Shakeup. We are so excited to have you here today to learn more about you and your role at Accuturn, and just welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait to speak with you all. And can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I have not met before. So for the sake of the audience and me, because I'm greedy like that, can you give us like a 1 minute background of who you are and
Yeah.
like, how did you land where you are right now?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'll try to squeeze it into a minute. My name is Rani Viroja, and I am a quality engineer here at Accuturn. So my day-to-day consists of a lot of different tasks. I do have a couple of, tasks that I do recurringly, like first piece checks and programming certain machines and whatnot. And I really enjoyed what I do. But the way I got here was actually pretty unconventional. And I went to four-year university, just like many other people. And at the end of that time, I decided, oh, I actually don't know what I want to do. And I actually just want to explore my career options. I actually graduated during COVID. It was 2020, so everyone kind of fizzled out of school, right? And so everyone kind of went back to their homes, and then that's when I decided to kind of look a little bit more into manufacturing, and I joined my family's aerospace and defense manufacturing business. So I've been here since 2020, and I've kind of explored different departments, and I'm really loving what I do now.
So I have a question for you. Your title is quality engineer. Did you get a degree in engineering? Is that where you started?
So I actually did not get a degree in engineering. So I kind of built my way up to get to that title. And that's something that I think now in the face of manufacturing depends on the manufacturer, right? I don't want to kind of mislead everyone and say, oh yeah, you can just kind of go this route. We are at Accuturn, so we are a manufacturer. We manufacture to blueprint. And what does that mean? We don't do any research and development, right? We don't create any new products of our own. We figure out the process of how to take this block of material and make it into, this intricate cylinder or this intricate part, right? And so we do process manufacturing. That's kind of our specialty here. And that, depending on, like I said, the manufacturer and the specialty, that can be a learned skill. Sorry, what was your question? I kind of went off on a tangent.
I asked if you went to school to be an engineer.
Oh, yeah. So I actually went to school thinking I was going to go somewhere in the medical route. And Northeastern University is the university I went to, and they have a co-op program there. And for the co-op program, you have to work. It's a mandatory work for 6 months, and then you can do multiple co-ops if you want. So for the co-op that I did, I actually worked in biotech manufacturing. And so I was working with different types of chemicals and different, machines that would help create peptides and create personalized immunotherapies for cancer patients. And so being in that environment, working with those machines, working with those chemicals, being hands-on is something that I never had really explored. And that's when my interest peaked, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I had the crisis that I think a lot of college students do, where I was like, oh my gosh, like I like this, but now I'm in, my junior year, I'm about to enter my senior year. I can't redo all these 4 years, right? Like, what do I do? And then that's also the time, that COVID hit, everyone was off campus. So everyone was kind of, I was kind of in that scramble to figure out what do I want to do, right? And that's when I kind of was like, okay, let me keep an open mind and let me just explore this path. And so, that's how I kind of ended up here. And
I love that. I love that. And you get it. We're going to put, there's another quarter in the jar. So we have a jar going here at the Manufacturing Shakeup. And every time we get to hear about somebody else who was like, how did I get into manufacturing?
Yeah.
I never thought I would be here. We put a quarter in the jar. And so far it's, it's filling
75
fast.
cents.
Yep.
No, exactly. Yeah.
It's filling fast because and I love the question that you I feel like so many of our listeners can relate to what you just said in terms of, sort of getting to that place earlier in your career and going, what do I want to be when I grow up? And then finding something that in this space was like, oh, oh, what's that?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Because, and I think it's great, right? When people know what they want to do in high school and then they do it, I'm like, wow, like, I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that. Right. But that's not the
oh, I
reality
met
for
that one
most of the
person
people,
that one
right?
time. That's
Yeah.
there's
Right.
only
Exactly.
one person,
Like
by the way. That's not like an actual, that's one
Yeah.
person.
No, exactly, right? And then you think like, oh, you know what? That's going to be me. I'm going to stick to it. And then you get out there and then you realize, hey, there's just so many cool career options out there. There's so many different paths that you can take that there's no one right answer, right? And I think the great thing about manufacturing is that you can find your niche wherever within manufacturing, right? I think a lot of people think that manufacturing is, oh, you have to be, you have to be super technical. You have to be, a engineer, or you have to do something. You can go into marketing. You can go into, business development. You can go into accounting. There's so many different avenues you can take right within manufacturing. And I think that's such an interesting conversation that I really like to engage with students in.
I
I
love
know, and
that.
you do a lot of work with students, right?
I do, yeah, I do. I'm the co-chair of an organization called AMEP, which is the Advanced Manufacturing Employer Partnership. And essentially the goal of AMEP is to build a strongly connected network of manufacturers and supporting organizations. And overall, just to support the growth of manufacturers in the capital area region of Connecticut. So, we really believe in unleashing the power of connections, right? For amplified resources. There's so much that is right in our backyards that if we just kind of looked around, if we knew about the different resources as manufacturers, we could help our business grow immensely. So, I mentioned the partners, right? The manufacturing industry partners. So manufacturing isn't just made up of manufacturers, obviously, right? There's so many key players, there's so many people in the industry that have a vital role to our success. And, that can be industry partners, that's educators, that's students, right? K through 12 students. And so one of AMEP's focus is actually empowering K through 12 students to see what a career in manufacturing can be, right? I think a lot of students initially when we created this program, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but initially when we were talking to these students, their perception of manufacturing was kind of this like 1900s view of what manufacturing is, right? And so
Dark, dirty, and dangerous thing.
yeah,
Dark,
exactly.
dirty, dangerous. It's an assembly line. I have to be
Right.
able to I'm going to pull levers all day. No, thank you.
Exactly, right. And so we were like, that's such an interesting thing because going in, we had this entire, agenda of what to cover and whatnot, and then that small discussion that we had made such a big impact on how we shaped the future sessions of that program. And so, that's one of our favorite things to do during that program is to kind of break down that misconception of what manufacturing is and tell them what the reality is, right?
Something is jumping out at me also. The way you talk about this, and not just about the AMEP program, but also you are coming across to me as a raving fan of our little state and what we really do here. And I think that is the coolest thing in the world to hear. I could just see it on your face. I know that some people are listening and they can't see her face right now, but go back and watch the video because what you can see on Rani's face when she's talking about this is love for manufacturing, love for the dynamism, love for the opportunity that engaging in this is so much more than people think it is. And to me, what that also reflects is how much more this is for Connecticut. The whole idea of what you're putting out is not just, in your work directly as and in your job role, but also in your partnership with AMEP and the way you're talking about this as such a powerful ambassador is you're really an ambassador for, hey, look at all these options. And the more people hear about those options, the more likely they are to stay here in our Connecticut because we want people to stay here and thrive and grow.
That's the thing. Connecticut packs a punch, right? We have, for being a small state, we have a lot to offer, right? We have a lot to offer to residents who have been staying here. We have a lot to offer to, recent graduates who are looking for, we're looking to build a career. If you just kind of, throw a rock anywhere, you'll land on 10 different manufacturing companies, right? Like
Exactly.
there is, and within each manufacturing company, like there's so much, there's so much that's different in each manufacturing company, right? So you can explore, you can kind of figure out what you can align your passions with a career right here in Connecticut. And I stand by that.
Question for you. One of the things that I think is unique about Accuturn is you are an intergenerational company, right? You're working with other family members in multiple
Yes.
generations, right?
Yeah.
Can you
So
talk a little bit about like what that's like to work with cousins and your parents and to have multiple generations among you, but I'm sure also with people in the plant.
Yeah, no, it's great. So I'm part of the second generation leadership team, and the second generation leadership team consists of me, my cousin, and my cousin's wife. So we are here to kind of, take on what our parents have created and kind of grow it bigger, right? And kind of have grow it out so that the community can also benefit from what we do, right? And we can connect more with the community. So speaking on behalf of myself, I really loved it. I know that some people, they butt heads a lot and whatnot, but we have a really nice rule here where work doesn't leave these four walls. We talk about work in work, and then when we leave, it's separate, right? And I think that for each family it looks different, but for us, I think we really thrive that way. And they have, and I think we're in such a fortunate position, right, where we have a wealth of knowledge with the generation who created the company, right? They have so much to offer. They have, every single day I am learning something new. There has not been a single day where I've been like, oh, okay, well, this old thing. I'm like, okay, well, what's the new challenge that I'm going to take on today? And I personally thrive in those environments. And I think that environment and that attitude is seen across all of our employees. Every single day, everyone's ready to take on a challenge.
How do you think that has spread? Like, how is it possible that you see that across so many people? Because not everybody's a family member. Like, what have been some of the approaches that you've taken to sort of infuse that we love the dynamism attitude? Like, how do you cultivate that?
Yeah, I think it's something that is definitely, it takes a lot of effort, but at the same time, it's something that we embed right from the beginning. So right from the hiring process, to helping employees grow, it's something that is part of our culture right from the get-go. And I think, so people who join our team, right, who join the Accuturn family, they know that they're, that this is the dynamic and that they're joining this specific dynamic, and they add value to it. And I think it's something that it's important to kind of identify in the culture of your company and kind of set those expectations right from the start.
Well, I feel like you had a question, so I'm.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit more just about the intergenerational, because every conference that we attend, there's something on navigating intergenerational challenges. And it sounds like you're doing just, that you're navigating them and exploiting what's good about those intergenerational challenges. And how does that relate to the work that you do and talk about in schools? Like, do you talk to students about who they'd be working with and mentorship and any of that?
Yeah, so we talk about that a lot. And, something that, one thing that I really like to explain to students is that a lot of small manufacturers, they're family owned, right? You have families working in these companies, and there's this, it's not as rigid as a big corporation, right? That is going to have all these like structured, things in place, for, in my opinion, obviously for the better. And so, when I talk to students, I kind of explain to them that this is the culture across a lot of different small manufacturers. And what's great about AMEP is that it's volunteer led, right? And so it's made up of small manufacturers. So the people who are participating, the manufacturers, the employers who are participating in these programs, they all come from small manufacturing companies. So it's not just, they're just listening to Rani and they're like, oh, well, Rani's saying that. What is everyone else saying? They're hearing from other manufacturers as well who are kind of in the same boat as me. And maybe they're not necessarily part of that second generation leadership team, but they can still talk about how that working in that environment affects them just as, another employee in the company. And so that's, I think that's one way that we're able to relate to the students and give them an understanding of the culture, give them an understanding of kind of the dynamic that they would be getting into if they went into manufacturing, small manufacturing in Connecticut.
How big is Accuturn?
Accuturn is a 20 employee company, so it's a pretty small company. We're a, yeah.
Yeah, so that you're making me think about this idea that, there's a narrative in our country in general about, big fish eating up little fish at every turn, and about how, oh, that's poisoning in America and blah, blah, blah. Like we love to sort of, tell the tales of woe about that. But what I love about your story is you're actually telling the tale of staying small and thriving as a small manufacturer, and not just staying small, thriving, and being dynamic, but even sort of like being more powerful in the marketplace. Like really advancing through the culture efforts that you make, through the work with AMEP, sort of really like putting a stake in the ground and saying, we stand proudly in who and how we are. I feel like that's a really important thing for our Connecticut's, particularly small manufacturers, to hear.
Small and mighty.
Small and mighty, right? Small and mighty, just like Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I think a big thing here is we focus highly on quality, and quality obviously of our parts, but also just of the work environment, right? Of our employees. So I think, while we are a small manufacturer, each person here, it plays a vital role in our system, and kind of optimizing each individual and making sure that, like we're all contributing to the same goal. That's kind of our focus. We are less focused on kind of the quantity of optics of how it might look to be a small manufacturer, right? As long as we can continue offering consistently high quality products, which we do, that's kind of our goal, right? And I think that's what our quality is what sets us apart. We're able to hold very tight tolerances, and that's a niche that we have specialized in for the past 25 years.
Particularly important in aerospace.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I heard Paul Lavoie say is like the number 2
Yeah.
in the nation.
Yeah.
How can tiny Connecticut be number 2 in the nation?
Exactly. That's what I'm
In
saying.
the aerospace industry. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And so precision is, one of those things that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and there's a couple of shakeup factors that I really want to articulate for our audience. One is like embrace dynamism, right? Because everything you're describing is about how you and your family and your employees are being very intentional about we embrace dynamism and the many ways that can look. Second shakeup factor I'm hearing is around connection and partnership, right? So like you're not going it alone. You're out there working with other companies, with other people. You're partnering with high schools. You're partnering with AMEP, like building these partnerships and connections, which is absolutely the name of the game. And then the third one that I love, that I hope other tiny manufacturers in our tiny state here, is like, be small and mighty, right? Like we are small and mighty. We will be small and mighty, right? Like let's do that. Let's bring our small mighty energy, because I think the more that we get to express that in our state, the more people will see the appeal, in the way that you just like broke it down beautifully about all the reasons to be here and to be in manufacturing in Connecticut and the amazing opportunities of that. But also just, Connecticut has this absurd self-narrative about how much it hates itself. And so I love that you're like out in the marketplace going, Connecticut rocks.
Like it,
Right, exactly. I mean, I was born and raised in Connecticut, left, and I came back. That's how great it is. So
Well, and that story is happening more and more, especially as employment opportunities get better and better and people become more aware that they can come to school here and stay, or they can go away to school and come back for the quality of life, for the whatever it is that people value, whether it's the beach or the mountains or whatever. It's right here.
Yeah,
It's right here.
That's very
So
true.
before we leave, Ronnie, question for you. will undoubtedly be other people listening to this podcast who will think, I'd love to advance my career. I'd love to shake up manufacturing in some way. What's one thing that you think that somebody who's listening to your stories about community involvement and AMEP and the other things that you've done along your career path, what's one thing that you think somebody could do to shake up their own career with regard to manufacturing?
I think networking has so much power, right? Just being in a room with people, even if you're just standing there, right? Just being in the room with people, listening to different conversations, kind of obviously engaging, being a part of, understanding what manufacturing actually is, what the industry is, will not only help you get better opportunities, but it'll help you get a more realistic understanding of what role you can have within manufacturing. And I think, I'm a big supporter of networking, obviously. And so, AMEP has a couple of networking events that we're putting together. And, we invite all different types of employees, employers, everyone who's kind of at different levels and stages of their careers to mingle, right? And to talk. You never know if one piece of advice from someone who's been doing this job for 25 years can change your career path, right? So I think just kind of connect, network, don't be afraid to ask questions, because that can save you a lot of time and give you a lot of insight.
Fantastic.
I know we're closing, and I'm going to ask another question because you just made me think of it. So one of the things that sometimes happens is that the networking concept doesn't reach all levels of the organization, and you just signposted that the things you're engaged in, particularly the AMEP meetings, are available to everybody. Everybody. And
Correct.
if you could give a hot tip to folks who might hear this podcast and think, golly, I would love to give that to my frontline workers who may or may not even know that there's stuff like this out there for them. Could you give them a best practice to communicate that out to the floor?
Oh, yeah. So, AMEP, we have our quarterly meetings, obviously, and we invite everyone. We have an email list going out, and we also are in the process of, reaching out and connecting, going physically to manufacturing facilities to connect with people. We're also very active on LinkedIn and always post any of our events, on social media so that employers and employees can both know, hey, if I want to participate in this, I can. And it's, we try to keep it as cost efficient as possible. We've had previous trainings. Most of our previous trainings have been free, and so we want it to be super accessible to everyone, right? And our quarterly meetings and all the things that we put out, sometimes some of the events and trainings that we put out are for, the managerial level or employers, right? And a lot of them are for employees, right? We had this training that we did earlier this year for sales and marketing, and we had so many people from at various points in their career join us, and they loved it so much that many people were like, can we bring this back again next year? So, I think communicating out to manufacturers what AMEP does is something that is challenging. And, I'll be honest. And I think because there's so many different industry, supporting organizations out there, right? How do you do that? How do you kind of communicate out? And I think what we've really succeeded with that other organizations can, definitely take on if they aren't already doing is through social media and through that physical in-person meetings and connections. So that's kind of my advice.
That's a hot tip for our listeners. So Rani Viroja, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. This has been enlightening.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. And, you guys it was such an engaging conversation, so I really appreciate your time as well.
Thanks for listening to the Manufacturing Shakeup. You can listen to us each week on your favorite podcast app. You'll find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And if you use the hashtag MFG Shakeup, we will see them and really appreciate your spreading the word about what you're hearing and learning each week. Hey, Jenny, did I forget anything?
Yes, you did. Here's the most important bit. You may have learned something from that guest. They may have told a story about, oh, here's what I did and here's how it worked. Here at the Manufacturing Shakeup, we are all about action. So take some nugget of what you heard today and put it into practice, even if it's small and experimental. Get busy, get dangerous, go shake stuff up and bring people along with you. Go take an action, post it on social media. Let's have some fun.
The Manufacturing Shakeup is sponsored by the Connecticut Office of Manufacturing. Produced by Maselli Productions and Gale Communications, and hosted by the Boulder Company.